I've heard it said at this point, the execution heavy SEO is a dollar store commodity. I think that's kind of a joke when a lot of the guys who are out here selling it don't really seem to properly grasp the fundamentals. Mostly standing from my own point within consultation, however, this is of course going to trickle down by nature into the more execution heavy stuff. My name's Alex Palmer. I've helped out hundreds of businesses in various niches over the last several years. And after trusting the wrong people myself, I've built Optilineage, which is dedicated to helping people who need a trusted partner in brand marketing. So, starting with audit and overview, people tell you that basic on page and keyword research is dead. I don't think that's accurate if you don't actually know what the bots are looking at, where they're getting their math from, or what categories of math we should be performing for that matter. We know that in order, Google values our headings 1 through 3 in that order. So 1 would, of course, be the most important because it's our page title. 2 is our primary ideas, and 3 is our supporting ideas for those ideas. And all 3 of these heading tags are supposed to point to one grand overhead idea. In most cases with me, it's something like service, right? Insert Plumber Joe's plumbing service. As a quick example, I'll mention there are guys who are counting headings 4, 5, and 6. 4, 5, and 6, majorly speaking, are simply a result of site structure and are expected to appear, but play little to no role in the algorithm whatsoever. People will flash this to their clients and tell them, oh, look at all the headings you're missing. Are we? And I found in many cases that's just because somebody ran it through a tool and the tool told them so. I've heard people say, I'm writing optimized content with insert AI here or insert tool there. When I go back and double check these guys, because most of my stuff is audits and double checking if you're getting your value, I often find that no, our word counts are off, our overall count is off, our heading counts are off, our optimization is off, there's no schema implementation, the call to action is missing, just random basic fundamental mistakes way more frequently than you would expect from what are supposed to be professional businesses. And now, while actually doing this stuff does have a very certain value, knowing this stuff actually has a even higher value. So basically, my ability to tell the next guy, hey, here's how it's properly done, this is actually worth more than the guy who is actually executing on it. And when I say that, I'm basing this simply on industry standards. So if we're looking at an execution heavy SEO specialist, we're looking at around a salary from 60 to 85 grand a year. However, guys who are overseeing high level architecture and strategy are consistently demanding around 130 to 175 grand a year. Think about this the next time that somebody says, hey, I need an SEO guy and I'll give you $18.50 an hour. The guys who are feeling it the most right now are the guys who are on that middle level, the guys who do the execution, but they don't do the thought craft. They don't do the conception. The same guys who are relying on tools to basically make themselves equal to the guys who have spent the time to get the education on these matters and are selling you a half-baked result. There used to be a time where people were essentially just paying for a report, and while that's still kind of true to a degree, I think the thing that really demands the dollar now and allows you to capitalize on a retainer is basically keeping up with the client and keeping up with the curve of the market and modeling moving forward using science and data how to scale out and promote SEO and marketing endeavors. What the client is looking for is confidence. What the client is looking for to buy is the result is to buy certainty. And in a space like SEO, it's very, very particular because we are not Google. We are not the people who will eventually call them. And so we have a certain lack of certainty ourselves on what can I deliver. Essentially, the way that I explain it to people is I can build Rome, but I can't guarantee that there will be butts in those seats at the end of tomorrow. And so if we know what the highest value position is that business owners are looking for, how is it that we fill it and how do we justify ourselves as a premium service provider? Most guys are talking about stuff like customer acquisition cost or your lifetime value. They're already kind of aware of these things. They know what the average dollar amount is per person in the door. What they need to know is where can they get it, where can they get the most of it, and where can it be the most budget effective as well as being safe. And so again, this is where the forecasted reporting comes in, and this is where AI can be a very useful tool. We basically want to point out for the clients, hey, this is what you stand to gain, and here is a reasonable time frame in which to expect to start gaining it. In many cases, a timeline is something like 4 to 6 months with some depends in there. and we stand to gain whatever the number one winner is for whatever our service is, because we don't have that position, and that's why you're talking to me. So if that guy has 1,000,000 clicks and we only have 100 clicks, what do we stand to gain? The vast majority of that 1,000,000 clicks. Out of that 1,000,000 clicks, what is the translative percent of sales? Well, this is also dependent on your actual close rate, but most guys will actually close 10 to 20%. However, out of the 100,000 clicks, let's just say on our page, 1% of that amount of clicks is what is actually going to lead to the door. And so out of 100,000, we would get 1,000 people to the door, and we would get 10 to 20% of those people to actually close. So we're talking 100 to 200 actual sales. That's what you stand to gain. How much is that worth per ticket to you on average? 200 heads is worth a hell of a lot to me. And so if you have that amount of approximated sales that they stand to gain, and you already know what your service fees are, you can weigh your service fees against the potential amount of average revenue that they'll make and justify very easily how much your retainer is going to be. So if you're driving 50 grand in what is incremental revenue, you can definitely demand a $5,000 retainer. You're making them 45 grand a month. I think a lot of guys have built a foundation on their portfolios and showing off their previous work. And obviously, I think that that's a good standard to keep. However, wasting tools is still a waste. What I'm trying to say is, by having credible previous works, your value is greater, not less. You do not have to give them more or provide more proof that it works because you have given it away for free. The only thing that you haven't yet given them is the strategy for them and the forecast of the next 90 days for their business. Well-packaged SEO work and website work are about a dime a dozen now, and it's growingly hard with the presence of AI to tell what's fact and what's crap. I think I know it as well as you do. We're looking for somebody who actually knows their stuff, who can deliver the result that we need. High-value delegated work has a high impact and therefore demands a high value. $18 an hour for SEO management is totally crazy. I also think $100 an hour is a little bit crazy, to be fair. This is why I usually look at things through the scope of value. If I give you $50,000, is it really that much of an object that I asked you for 5 grand? No, because I just gave you 45 grand. Now, the only way to do this is to take the time to get the education, test things for yourself, learn, fail. For multiple reasons, just throwing something through an AI is not going to get you your intended result. First and foremost, things are evolving at such a rapid pace beyond the actual capacity of AI that AI could never ever keep up in the next 30 years. They're always going to be one step behind the actual algorithm because that's exactly what the algorithm is designed to do, is outpace this new wave of technology. You need to stay ahead of the curve, and the only way to do that is with your own eyes and your own brain. Tools will help you, but it's not going to get you to the finish line by itself. You got to work for it. Guys who are saying SEO's dead, I think the way that you used to sell SEO is dead. We're not getting away with lazy, cheap garbage anymore. You can't just run an optimized page through a random tool and get a result that's worth $500 anymore. You can't just load up a Maps campaign into any old traffic bot and demand $800. The modern consumer is wiser than ever. They've already been messed around by this evolving market, and they're tired of it. They're having AI and sales trash crammed down their throat. They just want safety and reliability. That's the thing that you're missing. You need something that makes you unique. You need something that makes you stand out. You need something that makes you irreplaceable. In a market dominated by guys where nothing is working and there's already 100 guys who are winning on what's not working, we need something different. The value now is becoming the mastermind of the SEO marketing operation. It's understanding what the trends are, what you need to be doing on your website and with your internet presence, and how it's evolving in the face of AI workflows. Standardized SEO services, we already know at this point, it's kind of done for. There's only one thing left for guys who are true SEO specialists, and that is to move into a full management position, a position where they are paid for what they know, not what they do. Service by itself is a dime a dozen. You can get 100 of it on any street corner for only $1 now. You can get backlinks, you can get traffic, you can get a website built, you can get on-page optimized, very cheap with 100 different services. The value comes in knowing if those services and the execution within is getting the job done and being able to prove it. Everybody else start packing up. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts about what drives or diminishes value in terms of SEO specialty. My name's Alex Palmer. You can find me over at OptiLineage anytime or reach out to us on social media. You could also find free education and work samples over on the website. Hope this helps you out, guys. Have a good one.